Cool, thanks. I've just switched on recording. I'm Jeremy Watson. I'm here with Eric Brinkman. We're talking a little about the Spaces group here at GitLab and kind of what that some of the problems that that group is going to solve regarding workspaces and teams. Eric, you were just talking a little bit about kind of how you kind of see kind of like our category strategy right now and some of the problems that we should kind of concentrate on solving kind of in the near future.
Yeah, and so I was basically saying that I think there's two category direction pages that exist for the Spaces group. The first one is Teams, and the second one is Workspaces. And if you go and read those as they stand today, they basically read like we're trying to augment our permission systems, like we're trying to augment or rebuild groups or subgroups. And I think there's a lot of overlap with respect to not just another category in the Spaces group, which is called subgroups, but also the things that the access team is trying to do with respect to permissions and group managed accounts and whatnot. And so it feels a little bit like we've designed our categories in the Spaces group to be maybe too prescriptive in how we're actually going to like implement like the actual outcome that we want the Spaces team to do. And so I was about to share my screen with Jeremy when he very kindly recommended that we record this, which was a great idea. So thanks a lot, Jeremy. But I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share my screen to show a competing product in this space that I think we all have agreed, or we all seem to like directionally, that provides a good experience. So I'm on the homepage of JetBrains Space product. And if you look at their product, there's a few screens they have here. But I can tell you like very quickly, just by looking at this first screen, this screenshot is essentially what I think we all, and when I say all of us, I mean myself, you, Luca, Tim, Zalman from engineering, have kind of agreed directionally, like where we want the Spaces team to go in terms of the outcome we're delivering. And so if you look at this screen, I think this is what I would expect if I had some sort of team concept inside of GitLab where there's a landing page. I can tell very quickly who's in my team. I can tell very quickly the work that the team is doing, what projects they care about, what is the feed from an activity perspective, perhaps even like what code review actions are outstanding. And I actually really like this screen in general because the way that these teams are kind of organized is software development, web, mobile, backend, like it's a single team. But if we take like manage as an example, like we could have manage be the top level team here, and then we could say, okay, these are the manage PMs, or even these are the team members for say access. And then you could even break it down further and say, these are the front-end engineers for access, the back-end engineers for access. And I kind of just have this visualization of like a drill down capability into specific teams. So like you could start at the top level and like for me, I could just go to the manage team page and say, this is all the work that the manage team is doing and the things that are delivering. Maybe even have like a burn down chart for the release that we're doing. You can do some of this today, but you have to use labels. But this would be just a better experience, I think, in general. And then like, Jeremy, you as the group manager, that would be useful view for you, but say for Luca, who's the PM for Spaces, like she could drill into the Spaces group, and then maybe the engineering managers could drill in, into individual backend and front end components. And so I'm curious and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Jeremy. It feels to me that maybe we should go out the door with some sort of MVC to get us to iterate to a solution like this versus starting with an MVC of maybe the plumbing or the organizational netting that we need to get to this type of outcome.
I think we're aligned. Like I think that we started out the Spaces group thinking with two primary categories. There are other categories, but the main things that this group is focused on are teams and workspaces. I think that the right way of thinking about it is not that we're going to introduce like a new concept and a new object in GitLab called teams. The way that I've been thinking about it is that we need to solve for the need of there is no kind of like first class concept of being able to create a people only group in GitLab. And the problems that manifest are in terms of issue. We can't assign issues or tasks to teams of people where they can triage them as a team, and then assign them to individuals from there. For portfolio planning, we do not know which groups are people-only groups to be able to assign like a number of an amount of capacity to what that group of people can accomplish. So we wind up having friction in the product because we don't have that kind of capability. So the problem that we want to solve is really, how do we solve that problem? Do we do that with an individual object, or do we do that with the confines of the group structure? Same thing with workspaces, which I'm not interested in necessarily adding a ton of complexity to the product and making it harder for us to iterate by adding this new concept called a workspace. And all of a sudden there's a new thing that we have to deal with there, and we can nest groups within that. The problem that we want to solve is that, especially for GitLab.com, groups are not sufficient for the amount of security and capabilities that someone on GitLab.com really needs to be successful. So those are the problems that we're trying to solve with those categories. How we do it, I have not seen like a proposal that says that groups are not going to be sufficient. We need to go beyond that. Like I have no evidence thus far that that's the case. Maybe one way of doing that is to possibly like remove like workspaces and teams as categories, stick with subgroups, and then iterate on subgroups until we've proven out the need to we actually have to like have this teams concept, which is going to be totally independent. And then we can propose that as a category and then make a case for the thing. But I think that you and I are aligned. Like when you walk through spaces, like that's exactly kind of like how I've been seeing it in my mind, which is being able to drill into different teams at GitLab. So you as like a product director can click into the spaces group, see everyone on that page, get a sense of kind of what everyone is doing, what we're working on, what our priorities are. And then, without having to hunt around in the product, like look around for like filter by issues, look at direction pages, you just have everything in a single place. So I think that we're definitely aligned, and I'd love to see what did you think about, how do you think our categories should evolve? I just mentioned possibly even removing them for right now. Do you think that we should keep them and like continue to iterate on them like in that direction, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, let me pull up the category page just so I can get the full lay of the land here. And I think there's 3, right? Oh, there's 4 users. Okay, so we have subgroups, users, teams, and workspaces. And
Correct.
Teams and workspaces are the 2 new ones that we added. We renamed groups and made that into subgroups. So subgroups and users, I think they stay. We shouldn't touch those. They're pretty foundational to the product at this point in time. Teams and workspaces, I think after digging in a little bit more, here's kind of what I was thinking last night and this morning, which is I think maybe teams goes as a category, because I think by nature of teams being introduced as a category, we've basically decided that subgroups can't be used as teams. But I actually like workspaces as a category, or maybe it's just spaces. Maybe it's a spaces group with a spaces category, which is kind of a rallying cry to build that outcome, that experience, that like landing page in the application where the team lives, as an experience. Because I don't think that you would just put that as a like, to me, that's not a sub feature of a subgroup. It's not a sub feature of a user. Like it's its own experience with its own maturity, I think you'd want to measure. So I guess my proposal would be leave subgroups, leave users. Maybe we delete teams for now because it's prescriptive in the solution, and then we kind of rework workspaces. We can maybe rename it to spaces, or we could leave it as workspace or name it to something else. But then we kind of refactor that category direction page to basically describe the outcome that we want. And then if we can use subgroups to get it, if we can use users to get it, we can use groups to get it, that's great. And if we need a new object or new construct in the application, I think that we can cross that bridge when we get there if we need a new category, or if like say subgroups can't solve the problem for us.
Yeah, agree. No, I agree. I think that like we can continue to solve those team related problems that I just mentioned, but I think we could do it within the confines of like the subgroups direction until we prove otherwise. And I think so. I think that makes total sense. Cool.
Cool.
Thanks for the
Thanks so
conversation.
much.